It's time to bring you yet another amazing episode. And now, welcome your host.
Good to have you on the podcast, Live by Omobola Stephen. I'm the host, Omobola Stephen, the podcaster, Live by Omobola Stephen, focused on personal development and self-improvement topics with professionals and experts who are adepts in these topics, offering constructive yet disruptive mindship conversations on these topics. Now, we emphasize the importance of us embracing personal development and self-improvement along the course of our lives, because when we tend to do so, we tend to find ourselves along the way. And it's such a joy and a beautiful experience when we truly find ourselves knowing who we really are and also finding our identity. Now, we also realize that there's so much innate potentials and possibilities that life has in offering for us if we don't give up. Now, personal development and self-improvement is a lifelong process that you and I must intentionally and constantly improve upon in order to see our life transform from where it is to where it ought to be. This is the mission and the focus of Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. On today's show, I have Mellissa Murphy Pavone, who is the Certified Financial Planner and Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, CDFA. Thank you for joining me on the show today, Mellissa Murphy Pavone.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you once again on the show and looking forward to this impactful session. I will be talking about how we can be more intentional about money, balancing financial mindfulness with personal growth and long-term security. You have a core expertise in this area, and my audience can't wait to have you share your insight on this topic. So the first question on the minds of the audience is, how can we reframe past financial failures and develop strong habits?
Yeah, I think financial communication is really important, not only with our partners, but with ourselves, right? And we all come into our relationship with money mindsets. And sometimes that leads back to generationally, did we know how much money our parents made? Did we have an allowance? What does money mean to us? And it's important to really peel back those layers of the onion. A lot of financial advisors focus on retirement, right? It's just retirement, the future. And I think they're missing something there. And my approach is a little unique, but I take a step back and say, let's learn from our financial past and kind of unpack where we came from. Let's plan for our financial future, but we really have to be present in today. And I think that's hard, right? But it's a balancing act that we have to do. And sometimes you need a financial ally or financial planner, somebody to help hold you accountable. But it's not just the future. It's not just the past. It's the balancing act of all three of those things and being really present today.
Oh, all right. Good to know that. Now, you talked about really present. Now, part of living in the present moment includes enjoying the financial situation one is in, rather by being consumed by financial anxieties. Now, I like to emphasize the line enjoying financial situation. But really, why do we have to enjoy financial situation at the present moment when there's lack? Sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where we don't even know where the next meal will come from. And so someone is telling me to enjoy my financial situation at the moment. Can someone help me, please?
Yeah, and that's part of it, right? We all have a unique story. And I think that sometimes the talking heads of finance kind of give blanket advice. And while it's good to the masses, it's not unique to you. So your situation is different than my situation, is different than our neighbor's situation. And so everybody's financial advice and path is going to look a little different. And our fears are different too, right? Our risk tolerance is different, our time horizon, and possibly even our health, right? So all of those things play into how we invest and how we spend, how we save. And it's really important exercise to know all those numbers, right? What are our assets? What are our liabilities? What is our income? and what are our expenses. And once you get clear on those numbers, then we can start to move forward and do some planning.
Now, invariably, what you're trying to tell my audience is that it's important for us to outsource. Now, really, is the future of a person's money theirs to build, or it's really entirely about outsourcing?
No, you can do it yourself. People do it themselves and they manage their own money. And I think that's okay, right? Not everybody needs a financial advisor or a financial planner, but you need to be honest with yourself. And so sometimes we need experts, right? Whether it's, physicians or whether it's lawyers. And so just like finance, sometimes it makes sense to bring in financial experts to help, but that's not always the case. But you want to make sure that the advice that you are taking, whether it be from a book or a podcast or anybody, it's specific to you. Because we are all unique and all of our financial situations are really unique.
Right now, for someone who is beginning to have a savings, right, financial savings, who do you advise to be the financial expert to contact at this moment?
I mean, I think the first things first is once you know what your numbers are, your assets, your liabilities, your expenses, your income, you need to have an emergency fund. And that's might just be simply going to the bank and having a bank account that's earmarked for emergency. And it needs to be liquid, so it can be in a money market account or a CD or a savings account. And that is earmarked not for day-to-day expenses, but God forbid you lost your job, or God forbid there was a big expense that we needed. And so the rule of thumb is 3 to 6 months of living expenses to be put away and completely liquid in a bank account. And I think that would be the first step that I would guide people to do to make sure before they start investing is that they have that emergency fund.
All right. So now, what do you think of financial literacy is a key pillar of self-improvement and personal development? Your take?
Yeah. I think financial planning is really important, and everybody has their different views on it. If you're working with a financial planner or a financial advisor, it's important that your values align with the advisors to make sure there's good synergy there and to make sure the values align on a personal level, but also on a financial level.
Right. But really, I wanted us to talk about financial literacy. We still have a void in terms of financial literacy in the world today. What are we missing out, and how can we get it right?
I'm sorry. The baseline of my company is really to empower people to know what they own and why they own it. A lot of times we go through these motions, right, and we don't quite understand it. And I think that's really important that everyone understands what they own or what they should own. And so that could be by taking classes, sometimes there's library classes, sometimes there's webinars, sometimes there's books, right? But you want to make sure that the people that you are learning from are, in fact, financial professionals, right, that are in the industry, and not just necessarily salespeople, because unfortunately there are financial salespeople that ruin it for the others, right? And that they have an intention to sell you something. You want to go to somebody who's just offering advice, and not trying to sell you a product or a service, but instead trying to empower you and educate you. Sometimes local colleges will do classes. Sometimes you can read books or go through Eventbrite and find out, some professionals that are hosting webinars. And look to your trusted people in your community to know if they have somebody that they recommend to you that they trust in order to increase your financial literacy.
All right. Now, Mellissa, how can we be open about money now to those who we are consulting? Because sometimes the issue of money can be a sort of a secret. this is what we have as a savings, this is what we want to put out. And so sometimes we just want to clamp into our shell. We don't want to, outsource. So what's your own advice in that regard?
I think that you need to find people that you like and trust and respect. And money is emotional, right? There's an emotional tie to it, and it's all different. My emotion to money could be different from your emotion to money, could be different than my husband's emotion to money or your mom's emotion to money. And so I think we need to be honest with ourselves, and we need to talk about money a little bit more, right? It's very hush hush. We don't talk about how much money we make, how much money we have. We assume, right, people have money if they have a big house or a fancy car or a new pocketbook, right? But we're just looking at the stuff. We're not looking at their balance sheet, right? And so I think that you don't have to shout it out to the world how much money you have or how much money you have, but your spouse and your trusted professionals need to know, and there needs to be some communication there. And I think that's what's important, to talk to, whether it be your significant other, your tax advisor, your attorney, your financial planner. Like, all of those people need to know so that they can give you the best advice possible. And as you increase that communication amongst your family, your immediate family, I'm not talking cousins, uncles, at Christmas dinner or the holidays, but I'm talking about within your household, increasing that, it makes it more normal, right? I say, let's have a financial date night. Let's go over our cash flow, right? One person might be the CFO of the family and they're paying the bills, but they're like, hey, inflation's real. Our expenses are going up, but our income isn't going up as much as our expenses. We might need to cut down. And there could be a pressure that they're feeling. And so being able to communicate that to your spouse, to say, hey, let's talk about this a little bit, or hey, this vacation, we might need to push this out a little further because of, X, Y, and Z, or these updates that we have to do on our house. So I like to say, have a quarterly date night with your significant other, get takeout, make it fun, plan, think about what your short-term plans are, your long-term plans are. Just make sure, touch base with one another, and make sure you guys are on the same page, because unfortunately, the lack of financial conversations sometimes lead to divorce. And I've seen it because, one, they don't talk about it, right? And it just kind of like snowball effects, and it grows and grows and grows until it's too big. And so that opening the lines of communication about money within your immediate house is a great way to start.
Thank you, Mellissa, for sharing your insight on that. Now, possibly in the what you just shared earlier, I'd like us to move to the psychology of money. So why do you think emotions, habits, and societal influences and shape our financial decisions?
We live in a cashless society these days, right? It's very easy. I shared the story recently. My daughter had a water bottle. It broke. And by the time she went to bed the next day, there was a new water bottle on our front porch. And I thought to myself, how great is it that in the middle of night, after I put her to bed and brushed my teeth and put on my face, did my face routine, I was able to purchase a water bottle without leaving my house, without going to the store, and it just appeared on our front porch. But at the same time, how terrible it was that my daughter didn't see me work for that water bottle or give money in exchange for that water bottle. There was no transaction, right? It just magically appeared because we are in this cashless transaction. So I think society, as great as the technology is, we start to lose the value of a dollar because we're not exchanging it with one another personally. It's like a figment of our imagination, like our emails, right? Like they just get sent off into space. Our money gets transferred from my money to Amazon, and miraculously a water bottle appears. So I think that it's very easy, even when it comes to food delivery services, right? Sometimes I go through cash flows with people and they notice that we're spending a lot of money on DoorDash or Uber Eats and delivery. And it's easy, right? You don't have to talk to a human. You just put it in your phone, and there's a convenience charge for that. And so that's part of the society that I think is we pay for that convenience, but it's often those habits that if we break them, right? Or if we become more intentional about our spending and say, hey, I'm only going to go out to eat or do Uber Eats on Friday nights. Like that's our thing. We do it on Friday nights, and we become more intentional about our spending and recognize it, then we can kind of connect more to the money that's going out, because it's really easy in our society to buy things and spend money very easily with the technology that we have today.
Okay, so do you have any important information or any projects you think is going to be beneficial to the audience? You can share if you have any.
I just think that open communication between you and your spouse to talk about money and not make it so painful, and to really know your numbers, your assets, your liabilities, your income, your expenses, is a great first start, and to become more mindful and intentional about your spending, because it's really easy in today's world, in this cashless society with the great technology that we have, to buy things and spend money without really thinking about it. And so if we become a little bit more mindful to say, does this bring me joy? Will this be better for my future? Or is this, a need, want, or just a desire? And then think about it and just pause a little before we purchase things.
Right. Any project in the pipeline you think is going to add value to the audience? If you have any, you can share.
Say again?
Yeah. Sure. Do you have any?
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, it broke up.
Yes, I said, do you have any project in the pipeline you think is going to add value to the audience? If you have, you can share.
Not at the moment, but I do offer free consultations if anybody has some questions about their numbers or want to know how to work with a certified financial planner or what options that you have. Welcome to come to my website, mindfulfinancialpartners.com, and I welcome the opportunity to help increase your financial literacy and give you options for your future.
Right, good to know. Thanks for sharing that with my audience, Mellissa. It's been a great time having Mellissa Murphy Pavone, a certified financial planner and certified divorce financial analyst, with me on the show today, live with Omobola Stephen, as we explore the topic on how we can be more intentional about our money, balancing financial mindfulness with personal growth and long-term security. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and your valuable time to the audience of the podcast, Mellissa.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a great podcast.
Sincerely, sure. On behalf of the audience, we sincerely wish you best of luck in all of the projects that you embark upon. It's been live once again. If you'd like to catch up with any missed episodes of the podcast, you can do so on any cross-promotion platforms or any podcast distribution platforms you bump into online, and do have a great time. Listen to the show and being transformed in and out with expert and professionals who share disruptive yet constructive mindship conversations on topics, subjects, other personal development and self-improvement. My name is Omobola Stephen once again. I talk to you soon. Thank you once again, Mellissa. We had a great time.
Bye. Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave us a review.